I remember working in politics for 15 years. As this problem developed, people would find Facebook or Twitter would do nothing about comments on social media. You might be a young person not happy with what a schoolmate has said on social media, and they just don't do anything about it.
Well, it's the Flow Morning Show, and it's time for us to have a look at the big political story of the day. It's relating to the trolls on social media, and Rikki Lambert is with me. Rikki, this is a topic that on the weekend, Michaelia Cash, the Attorney-General, and Scott Morrison went out with a range of people on a green parked area and decided to put the view forward that the federal government's going to do something about the social media trolling and the nasty things that happen on social media, and in effect put laws in place to bring account to that.
Yeah, that's right, Wayne. They had a pretty rocky week last week talking about religious freedom, so they decided on Sunday they'll go on a troll hunt and try and get some public support that way.
Yeah, social media freedom, but we have a different world, don't we? I mean, years ago there was the opportunity when one would say go and buy a newspaper, they'd read the letters to the editor, and people would make their commentary on political issues and on other social things, and they'd say what they felt. But now, with social media, everyone says whatever they like, which in a freedom of speech context might be a good thing. The problem is that it gives a place for people to, say, bully or hurt other people, particularly amongst our younger people.
Well, and also people have for a very long time used the internet to hide behind aliases and pretend that there's someone else and make these nasty comments. And I spoke with the member for Mallee from northwestern Victoria, Dr. Anne Webster, about her push. She's introduced a private members bill to tackle this very issue of people who make harmful comments online and making them accountable for them. She was very pleased when I spoke with her this morning that her own government has now moved in a very similar direction.
I am very pleased that this anti-troll legislation has been put into action now, and that the legislation will come before the House at some point. It's incredibly important that our populations, our kids, our women who are fleeing domestic violence can have a safe platform online. This makes platforms responsible as publishers should they fail to follow process.
Supported by the Prime Minister, who says the online world should not be a wild west where bots and bigots and trolls and others can be anonymously going around and can harm people and hurt people, harassing them and bullying them and sledging them. Well, I was on a social media platform at the weekend, and I decided to comment into an ABC article, and out they came. The cancel culture strongly there. I looked at the profile of a number of the people, and they don't appear to have any address or any particular place. It looked like I was being cancelled in that particular forum.
Yeah, and what Dr. Webster's proposal goes into, I think, which is quite important, what the government is, how it differs, and I'll include the audio from her in a moment, but how it differs is really that it will help people take these issues up, because I remember working in politics for 15 years. As this problem developed, people would find Facebook or Twitter would do nothing about comments on social media. You might be a young person not happy with what a schoolmate has said on social media, and they just don't do anything about it. Here's what she said about how you can actually hold those platforms accountable under what the government's proposing.
I was calling for social media platforms to be held to account as publishers. It has interim steps, which mean that the social media platforms must provide contact details, information of anyone who is using their platforms and who is defaming somebody else or at threat of doing so. If they fail to do that, if they fail to actually keep those processes, they will be held to account and taken to court, and the government will support those who need to take them to court.
It's a really useful mechanism by the sounds of it, but funnily enough, the Greens don't want to rush this through to the Parliament. They want to bump it off to a Senate inquiry. Most of those trolls, like the ones that attacked you, Wayne, tend to be Greens voters.
Well, that might be the case, and that's a concern here, isn't it, that if we try and restrict the speech, if you like, then we get to the point of, well, what becomes the standard of speech? Who makes that standard up? What is, if you like, the position that's the least common denominator? What are you allowed to say and what aren't you allowed to say? And then who actually sets the legal precedents for that?
Well, that's a good question, Wayne. I'm reminded by a broadcaster in South South Australia called Jeremy Cordeaux, no longer on the air, who used to talk about the court of public opinion. But the trouble is, every court has rules about how they conduct the proceedings. You can't just walk into a courtroom and make accusations that are unfounded. And I think that's what does need to be established, is just what is the public decorum or the appropriate way to conduct a debate online. And that's going to be in the hands of the whole global community, really, and goodness knows how we're going to settle that.
Well, it might be in the hands of a Senate committee. It may get passed as legislation, but like most of the things the government's put at the moment, it's going to have a bit of difficulty getting these sorts of changes through in the current status of the Senate.